Generative AI has been around for not too long. It's become very popular. And so suddenly people are talking about artificial intelligence, but actually, artificial intelligence has been around for quite some time. And so, to help unpack some of the potential and the concerns and the opportunities associated with artificial intelligence, Byron Reese, author of The Fourth Age Smart Robots, Conscious Computers, and the Future of Humanity, joins us to help unpack all of this. Byron, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
That is a long title. I
Yeah.
stumbled over it, but I understand that it's probably going to be rather complicated. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's kind of begin with, how do you see the relationship between artificial intelligence and human potential evolving over the next decade? I mean, there's the dystopian view, I guess, that we see in the movies sometime. Are we going to see that, or is it going to be a little bit less intense?
Well, I hope there's a third choice that is not awful, slightly less than awful. And those are my only two choices. I think it's going to usher in a new golden age of humanity. I mean, if you really want to tell the story in a long form, I think that, I think it's a 4 billion-year-old story. We started 3.5 billion years, life just stored data in DNA, and then it moved into the brains, and we externalized it and wrote it. And we slowly learned how to save knowledge so that generation by generation it accumulated. And now with this generative AI, we're finally bringing it all together into one thing. You know, when you search for Google, like, what's the difference between a cold and the flu? It gives you 30 million answers, but you just want one. And that's because it's all still siloed. And so what we're going to see, I think, is something that will be basically a collective memory of the planet, every cause and effect, so that, they say Solomon was the wisest person who ever lived. Well, everybody in the future will be wiser than Solomon, because everybody's going to have the life experiences of everybody who lived before them, informing their decisions. I think it's the beginning of a shift as profound as the evolution of brains, of life itself. Like, this is a big deal.
So adding on the layer of the interface of now the generative AI, that's sort of expanding the use so that everybody can tap into this global knowledge?
I think so. I mean, artificial intelligence is an unfortunate term because it means two unrelated things, unrelated. And one of them you obliquely referred to when you said we see in the movies. That's something called general AI. And we don't have that. Nobody knows how to build it. And I hold a minority view, probably 5% among AI people, that it's impossible. It cannot be done. It is not possible because people are not machines. And if you are not a machine, then we're not going to build a machine that duplicates what you do. Then there's another kind of AI called narrow AI, and that's what we do know how to do. And that's where you just take a lot of data and you look for patterns in it and use those patterns to make predictions. And we're real good at that, and we're getting better. But that isn't going to take over the world. I mean, what people worry about with that is, the jobs are going away or something. But that isn't going to wake up, and it's not Skynet. It's just actually a pretty boring technology.
We've talked about on this show beforehand how just the internet in itself has helped with it. Didn't necessarily take away jobs, but it helped with productivity. Certainly, some jobs were changed, but in the long run, it really advanced to an extent human evolution or human interaction.
100%.
And so you're thinking that AI is going to continue to take that path.
Absolutely. I've spent a lot of time researching this, and I think the half-life of a job is about 50 years. I think every 50 years, we lose half of all the jobs. I think we lost about half of them since 75, and they lost about half of them since 25, and they lost about half of them. So over and over, we're losing about half the jobs as technology advances, and yet we maintain full employment and rising wages. So how do you do that? How are you constantly shedding jobs? And it's because technology creates these new opportunities. Now, the reason it freaks people out, and we'll use your example, the internet. If you went back to the 90s and you said, "Hey, in the future, billions of people are going to have this. What's going to happen to jobs?" They would have said that's a job killer. The yellow pages are going away, and travel agents are going away, and stockbrokers are going away, and newspapers are going away, and shopping malls are going away, and you would have been right about everything. You would have gotten it all right. But what you would not have said, what they would not have said is, oh, there's going to be Uber and eBay and Etsy and Airbnb and all these new things. So it's easy to see one side of the equation, what the technology is going to eliminate, but none of us can see what it's going to create. The thing to always remember These are, as you said, productivity tools. And increasing human productivity is always, that's an absolute statement, always good for people. And if you don't believe that, you should advocate for a law that requires everybody to work with one arm tied behind their back. Because if you did that, you would have created a bunch of new jobs because you need twice as many people to do anything. But you know what? Those jobs wouldn't pay anything because you just destroyed everybody's productivity. So what these technologies do is they give everybody a third arm. They're good for everyone, everyone.
Well, let's dig a little bit into your book, and that's The Fourth Age. In your book, you talk about AI and the automation's impact on society. The concept of the half-life being 50 years, I've not heard that before. I love that, and that makes total sense. And it kind of prompts you to want to think forward because, as you said, a lot of the things that we take for granted today, Uber being a great example, nobody could have even fathomed about back then. I mean, it would not have even entered into anyone's mind. So you're going to have this impact on society. What do you think are going to be like some or the most transformative change coming down? I mean, can you actually predict what the next 30, 40 years are going to look like?
I think we'll lose half of all the jobs. Unfortunately, it's actually going quite slow. I, for all these people have been predicting for so many years that we're about to have all this unemployment. What we see is the opposite. I can't think of one job that's been eliminated in the last 5 years. Not one. So this idea that these things are just going to wholesale wash them away is just wrong. I mean, what you said is really true. When a new technology comes out, you can only see it in terms of the old technology. So when TV came out, they said it's radio with pictures, and so the first TV shows were just people in front of microphones reading. Only years later do you get, Seinfeld and all these other things. And what you just said is entirely correct. It takes us a while. Nobody, and it will be the young people who come up with these kind of new ways because we're people my age are kind of locked into it. We aren't going to be able to see what is possible with the new technology in the way that somebody who is not encumbered by all the old technology is able to.
And I think it's important to point out that I think arguably, like Bill Gates, for example, one of the most could be called one of the more visionaries, if you will, of the computer age, the founder of Microsoft and all of that. But even he said, and I might get the quote a little bit wrong, but I believe he said in the earlier mid 90s that nobody's going to have any need for more than 640K on their machine for as far as memory goes. And you couldn't run a simple app on your phone if you just had that amount. So there's certainly going to be some opportunities for enhancing human creativity and problem solving. Got one or two examples of that, perhaps?
I certainly. I have a deep held belief that if there is a job that a machine can do, a job that a machine can, in theory, do, whether you have the machine or not, whether the machine's been invented or not, if a machine can do it, if you make a person do that job, we have a word for that. That word is dehumanizing. What you're saying to the person is you're like, hey, listen, a machine can do this job. I just don't have the machine. So what I need you to do is be the machine. I don't need anything about you that's human. I just want you to be a machine. And you see, if you accept the premise, can a machine do it? Yes. Then it is beneath the dignity of a person. So as far as predictions go, any job that a machine can, in theory, do will be replaced, will be done by machines, and that will free people up to do things only people can do. And the idea that people aren't up to that or something, I mean, it's going to, the history of this planet is, survival has been kind of like until 100 years ago, 90% of us, all of us had to grow food. And that was it. And so Leonardo da Vinci 1,000 years ago and Marie Curie and, all that was lost. And finally, we're going to automate away anything machine can do. And in doing so, we're going to free people up to be people. And that's never happened before. People have been plow mules and all of that.
I think that that's a wonderful view of the future. So how can businesses prepare for that sort of a workforce where you're not necessarily just employing people because they can act like a machine, but rather that, as you can say, they act as a person. How is that going to change the workforce?
What I would think about it is not kind of as a break of some kind. This is all has been going on for centuries, and it's just a continuation of that. So technology has kind of two things. It creates new opportunities that are high value, high skill, high wage. And what it destroys are really low end, rote kinds of things that can be automated. And so what I encourage businesses to do, and then what I encourage individuals to do, like if you're worried about this, or your kids, like what are they going to do for a living? The thing is just every day wake up and ask if there's some tiny little thing you do that's machine work that you can automate. Just the smallest thing in the world. Automatic forward, or something you have to forward all the time, or this and that. So every day look and say, is there some tiny thing I can automate? And if you do, and it saves you 3 minutes in a day, then say, what can I use that 3 minutes for with new technology? And if you just keep doing that, like day to day, a little bit at a time, you're always going to be automating away. What you said is it changed a lot of jobs. You're going to be automating away lots of parts of your job that can be automated away, and then using technology to create new opportunities. And I think that's accessible for everybody, up and down kind of education level, age, all of that. That's just humanity. Everybody's got a third arm. What do you want to do with it? What you don't want to do with it is just be a 3-armed machine.
With every new technology, and every technology, I guess you could say, that's like there are ways you can use it, and certainly there would have to be some ethical considerations with regards to how you're using AI. So, what ethical considerations would come up here, or is it kind of the same thing where it's the same as any tool? It's you're just using the tool to perform a function, and the ethics come into the function that you're performing?
I think so. I mean, in the end, artificial intelligence is just math, just
Mhm.
math, just numbers, adding and subtracting numbers. And what has happened is because of movies and all of that, we have a different image of it.
Right.
And so we all do something called reasoning from fictional evidence. We take that fictional evidence and we say that looks really plausible, and so that isn't what this is. This is a technology that brings together the knowledge of humans and uses it to project the future. And now that we're better at collecting that knowledge and we have more compute, we're going to get better at doing that. I think we will do what Aeschylus predicted thousands of years ago when he said, we will tame the savage heart of man and make gentle the life of this world.
That's a great place to leave it. I love that view of the future, and really appreciate you coming on to unpack some of this with regards to AI. The book, again, is The Fourth Age. Byron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.